As somebody who is very, very intentional about making it in the labor market, as they call it, I was in like one or two WhatsApp platforms or groups where we always posted job openings. One thing I did was I made sure that my CV was up to date, was standard, was simple. It's an entry level role, so you don't even need a lot of experience. So I can remember applying for the GMAT around June, July, something around June, July, and email for the first level assessment. That was in October, so that's about 3 to 4 months. To apply to one, you have to also spread your tentacles. Just keep applying.
Yeah.
You had 60 questions that you should answer in 60 minutes, so you can estimate now 1 minute per question. So you had to be fast, and even with your speed, you had to try to be accurate. We had the case study presentation, preparation and presentation, we had the group exercise, and then we had the competency-based interview, all on the same day.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone watching. We're back with another episode on the Graduate Trainee series where we interview folks who have gotten into different firms in the country through the graduate trainee pathway, right? The graduate training pathway, again, is that pathway where you do not need experience to work in some of the big firms in the country, big four, banks, oil and gas, FMCGs, and you name it. And so today we'll be talking about one of the very popular banks in the country, by extension Africa. And so we would be speaking to Kofi of UBA today. Kofi, thank you very much.
Hello, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll be speaking about the application process, right? I imagine there are thousands of folks out there just finishing school, just finish serving, wants to work in that top building in Marina, right? And today we want to explore what it takes to get inside, right? So, two questions as we start. The first is, how did you come across the opening for the graduate trainee role for UBM? And the second question is, how did you structure your CV? Was there any specific thing you did that you thought made you stand out? And what was it? Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So first of all, how did I come across the job role? As somebody who is very, very intentional about making it in the labor market, as they call it, as someone who's very intentional about wanting to find a job at the time, I was in all of I was in like one or two WhatsApp platforms or groups where we always posted job openings and links as they are dropped. So I was always very active there. Anytime a link was dropped, I'll just click on it and apply. And then my CV had to be standby. So that was how I got to see, the UBA GMAP job advert, and I applied. And then for my CV, one thing I did was I made sure that my CV was up to date, was standard, was simple. And one thing we all have to know as job seekers is that our CV has to be tailored, particularly for the roles that we're applying for. It's an entry level role, so you don't even need a lot of experiences. But still, try to make sure that whatever experience you have on there is actually specific to that job role, and just make your CV simple. Make sure it is ATS optimized, it is standard. That's just what I did. I did a lot of research to find out, okay, what should be in the CV, what should not be, how should it be structured, how should it be, and then I just applied all that knowledge, and I just working on my CV. I spent nights working on it, making sure that it will be it's a whole lot of work, and I'm glad it paid out.
Yeah, cool. And we were speaking earlier, and one of the points you mentioned was the CV being simple. People go to Canva to design CV. You don't need all of that, right? Just make it structured, make it aligned, use the necessary words, and just make sure that when a recruiter is seeing it, it's not hurting their eyes. It's as simple and straightforward as possible. And your CV should be black and white. All this yellow, green that you're putting on your CV, it's not so needed. And also, again, everyone that has come here has always spoken about community, WhatsApp community. I don't know if by the time we're releasing this video, it's the community is going to be full. If it's not full, you can join the community in the description below. But if it's full, I just enjoin that. Please join a community. Join a community. Join a community. So now let's go to the nitty-gritty of how the whole application process is. I want to imagine that every application process will start with an assessment test, right? Do you want to tell us between when you first applied and when they go back to you for the assessment test, what was the duration? Just you can estimate.
So I can remember applying for the GMAP around June, July, sometime around June, July. I can remember because there was a program I was running at the time, so I can remember. Then when I heard back, when I got the first email for the first level assessment, that was in October. So between June, July to October, that's about 3 to 4 months.
Again, a lot of patience in the graduate training market. I imagine somebody applying and waiting for 3 months of nothing, radio silence.
That's
It is
why
what it is.
you
So
don't just
let's
apply
discuss.
to one.
Okay.
You don't just apply to one. You have to also spread your tentacles.
Mhm.
Just keep applying.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think I made a tweet today and I was saying that, see, just make a tracker for yourself. Name, application dates, open dates, close, firm sector, then the link. So that you can at least keep yourself accountable, right? It is very, 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 very important. Yes, don't apply to one and think that, especially if the firm is not for your dad. Nothing guarantees that you're going to enter, right? So let's discuss about the assessment test now. What was the structure of the assessment test? I don't know if you wrote one or you wrote two or you wrote three, but take us through the different assessment tests you wrote while applying to UBA.
So for the assessment processes, we wrote two assessment tests actually. We had the first assessment and the
Oh,
first level assessment. So just I can remember it was a Microsoft link. It was just like a normal web link. We had 60 questions that you should answer in 60 minutes. So you can estimate now 1 minute per question. So you had to be fast, and even with your speed, you had to try to be accurate. So that was the first assessment. And then upon passing that, I moved to the second level assessment. So the second level assessment was called the cognitive ability test. Okay, it contained 50
okay.
questions, and we had 65 minutes to go through all these questions. It was divided into three sections. We had logical reasoning, English proficiency, and analytical thinking. Sorry, and this particular test was facilitated by German. So those were the two assessment test we wrote. Upon passing that, then other. We now had the next process, which contained
Uh,
other processes.
we'll discuss that. Yeah. Um, Thank you very much. So, two assessments. The first one was a general assessment using a form. So you just need to, be up to date with your math, be up to date with your current affairs, be up to date with your English. Then the second one is you have to also for PQs and Joberman past questions, right? And she has mentioned how they are structured. So I even think because one of the questions that people have and they've asked me personally is that how do they even know the structure of the test? And I'm like, if you watch the YouTube videos, you should be able to know the structure of the test because the people who come in to talk about the application process eventually talks about the structure. So this is the structure for UBS test, and please just follow it through. On whatever community you are, there will definitely be past questions. There will someone somewhere that knows where certain past questions is, and they would send it in. So after the assessment, what was the next stage?
So can I also add something? I wanted to say that this is why it's very important for you to belong to a community, as you had said, because even on those communities, you can always get access to past questions. You can always see someone, or you can always ask questions. Oh, please, do you have past questions for this company, and you can always get help. So it's very easy as long as you belong to a community.
Okay, yeah, that's a good one. Please join the community. Please. We can't overemphasize this enough. So after the whole first level test and the cognitive level test or the second test, right? What was the next stage of the process?
So the next stage, the third stage of the process, how do I coin it? There's no one word, but then this particular stage consisted of three parts. So we had the case study presentation and preparation and
Mhm.
presentation. We had the group exercise, and then we had the competency-based interview. all on the same day.
Okay, I think it's generally called assessment center, at least for the big fours. Whenever they have a lot of activities
Mm.
sardined together like that, and it takes a whole day, they call it assessment center. So, for the purpose of this call, we can call it assessment center. So, within that assessment center, there is the group presentation, there is the presentation, case study presentation, there is the group exercise. Then there is one more thing. So let's take it one by one. Which one would you like to take first? Then you can run through each of the three.
Let me start with the case study preparation and presentation. When we started this session, so we were given a case study, right? A topic, and let's just say a brief explanation of what is happening, say in a bank, so thing is happening. So prepare a PowerPoint that addresses so issue, that addresses the whole issue. And we were given the case study that that day. We were given an hour to deliberate, to think on it. So it's a personal exercise to think about it and then prepare a PowerPoint presentation that you were to submit that same day, in the next hour. So I think in my time there was a hypothetical issue in a bank, and so we asked to prefer solutions on how the issue can be resolved. Okay, so what I did, because they sent a mail earlier, and I feel like everybody should always read your mail and be proactive. They sent the mail earlier. It
Mm-hmm.
was like 2 3 days back, and they said, okay, this was what was going to be. They're going to have a case study preparation and presentation. You get. So what I did was, first of all, I had to go and ask what is the case study preparation all about, and then I found out that okay, you'll be asked to prepare something using PowerPoint. So what I did was, now I went back and then I didn't know what the topic was going to be, right? But I now prepared a blank PowerPoint presentation. I just prepared a blank PowerPoint presentation. I had a title slide, I had other slides, and I had a thank you slide. Why did I do this? So that I would optimize my time. So when I just got in there, I
Yeah.
saw the question. I just went straight into research. I just researched, found my point, and I just put it into my slides immediately. And that helped me to be fast, because you remember you have to be fast. You have to be very time conscious to get. So that helped me to be time conscious. That was it about the case study preparation. So we prepared the slide, we saved the PowerPoint, and then we forwarded it to the email. We submitted it.
Mhm.
So I move on to the next one now. So the
Yes.
next was a group exercise. Now we were, I think, in my time we were 4 or 5 in the room, plus and then we were presented with the topic on the screen. Okay, this is going on again. Again, it was like a case study, but this time around you had to discuss what you're saying. You had to voice out your opinions. Everybody had to discuss, and I feel like the purpose of this particular session was to see your communication skill, to assess your communication skill, your teamwork skill, because you had to always talk, and you might not always agree with your partner's point, but then you just have to communicate in such a way that it presents um, a healthy communication in a team. You're not arguing, you're not fighting, but you're just communicating. Everybody's trying to pass their points across in the most peaceful way possible. So we're presented with a topic and we're asked to. I don't really remember what the topic is as of now, but I also know that it's centered around the financial world. So I think we were asked. Okay, I remember it was about a mobile app. How people were not really accessing the mobile app. So we asked, okay, prefer solutions. What do we think about this? How can we help to change the situation and all of that? So I and my team members. Okay, and how this one works is that you'll be given a topic, you'll be given about 20 minutes to discuss, and then 5 minutes at the end for somebody to round up everything. So I and my team members or my group members, we discuss, everybody brought out their points, we're moving, everybody was flowing. We make sure that we carry everybody along. Okay, what do you think about it? It also shows sign of teamwork. And then at the end, one of us, she did the summary, and then that was it. It went really smoothly, and I really enjoyed that session because it was very enlightening. I got to hear different people's views. Then moving on to the next. The next is the competency based interview. So in this session, first of all, before the competency based interview even starts, we presented the case study that we prepared earlier. So we started by presenting it.
On
You put your
on
slide.
an
You put
individual note.
Yes, this is individual. Yes, only the group exercise was collective. This is individual. Just
Okay.
you and the representative of the recruiting firm. So you put up your slides, you run through your slides, you explain everything that is on there. This is why you also have to practice your presentation skill. Make sure that you're good presenting. Practice your public speaking skills. And we put it you present your slides and your recruiter might ask you one or two questions. You should be able to answer those questions because after all you worked on that case. And then immediately after that we moved into the competency based interview. Now remember, this is an entry level role and you're going into the financial sector. For one, I don't have a financial background, and I have an engineering background, right? So I knew that for most entry level roles, nobody's going to come and ask you technical things about the financial sector. What are they looking at? They're looking at how you're going to your adaptability, your willingness to learn, all other factors. So I think questions that were tailored to me that they were factored around, okay, how would you assist the customer do this? How would you do this? If you were to bring
Mm.
an innovation, I think one of the questions I would ask was if you were to explain a mobile app to an elderly man that is an illiterate, like he's
Mm.
not really fluent in the English language, how would you do that? All those kind of
Yeah.
questions to see
Yeah.
how you communicate. And so I was also asked, okay, if you were to bring up an innovation to the mobile app, what would you bring? Why would you? All those kind of questions to assess your team spirit. I was also asked, okay, if you had a conflict with your superior, how would you handle it? Your recruiters are
Mm.
basically looking at your personality traits, personality questions. Let me even put it that way.
Yeah.
Not really technical questions.
Yeah.
So that was how it went. And this assessment center was also facilitated by Jobberman. Yes. So
So that's like a lot packed into one day. Was it the whole day that you used to do this?
I think I started around 9 a.m. I logged in around 9 a.m. I finished everything at about 2:30 because we were quite
Um,
plenty, and it takes time
yeah,
one
of
after the other.
course.
Although I
Yeah.
was interviewing once now, they would break us up and all of that.
Into different rooms. Okay. I think that what you said, it's a good pointer to anyone applying, and I think it's not only to UBA, to those applying to UBA. I think across the general terrain of the graduate trainee market, I think these things are very, very important, especially the part of the group exercise that you were talking about. Healthy communication, even when you're trying to disagree with the other person or with someone that is within your team. I think over the past few weeks, one of the things I've been trying to do, especially on Twitter, is actually to write many of these things as threads. But I would try to put the link into the description. Group exercise, things not to do, coupled with all of the things that you've said. I think case study presentation. And I really loved, to be very honest, I've never thought about the fact that you could, when you know that case studies tomorrow, just quickly do some skeletal present. I think that's actually genius. Just do some skeletal presentation down, and then when you get your stuff, just copy and copy and paste it. Yeah, I think that's actually very good. And on the competency based, I've written quite a number of threads too on that, because I know a lot of people actually struggle with that. Because it was designed to make you think on your feet and tell us a time when something, 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 and people make the mistake of thinking that the thing must have happened to you. And I keep arguing it to say that, see, it's not compulsory these things have happened to you, but that you can prefer solution when it happens. And so it means
Yeah.
that, yes, the most important thing is that you're thinking when they're asking the question, you're thinking, what is the way out? What would I do if I get into this situation? I think when more people or when more candidates look at it from a standpoint of they want me to solve a problem, not what problem have you solved, then you can be able to approach it much more better. I think I would add the links to all of these threads on my X page there for anyone to go read. And as you're reading, yeah, you can just help me get through to the next person by retweeting. So yeah, thank you very much. I want to imagine this is like the most stressful part. I would be scared if we've not gotten to the most stressful part of the conversation or the application by now. But after this, do you want to say something?
I said it was the most
Do you want to
stressful
say
part
something?
actually.
It has to. It has to. So, now after this assessment center, let's call it assessment center, right? Do you remember the period between when you're done with the assessment center and when they go back to you? Can you just estimate it?
So after the assessment center, the period between the assessment center and then when they go back to me for the next stage was our executive chat. It was a
Mm.
month or less because I feel like immediately after
Oh,
you start your first level, the process begins to speed up. In my case, so it was like a month or less. I got to the next stage.
oh, cool, cool, cool. So you already mentioned that it was executive chat. I understand that executive chat is also the same as top management level interview. Do you want to break all your experience in the executive chat to us? Want to break it down to us?
Okay, yeah, sure. So the executive chat, well, UBA is a global bank. UBA is in every state, in every city. So how ours was structured, we didn't all go to Marina because most people are not in Lagos, right? So we all went to, will I say, the head offices of each state where we had the chats with
Oh,
executive there. Yes, so I'm so I went to our head office here in Akwa Ibom State because I'm based in Uyo. So
okay.
it was a pleasurable, it was a nice experience. So we got interviewed or we were it's not supposed to be an interview, right? It's a chat, as I said. So
It's a chat.
to we spoke to our regional head. He was there. He was the one that spoke to all of us one by one, yeah, individually. So we got in, or I got in. I was asked, okay, introduce yourself. Why do you want to be in the banking sector? Okay, and then again, I had some hypothetical scenarios questions. Okay, if this were to happen, how would you handle it, and all of that to also assess you because these people now are assessing you on behalf of the bank. The other was on behalf of the recruitment firm or whatever. For they will now pass you on to the bank. So now
Yeah.
the banks. I also got quite a few scenario questions. Okay, how would you do this? How would you handle this situation? And as you said, the ability to think on your feet because I've never worked in the bank before. I've never handled customers
Mm-hmm.
in the banking setting. So how
Mm-hmm.
would you do this if you
Mm-hmm.
were here? You understand? So
Mm-hmm.
you had to just think on your feet as you said. So and that was it. It wasn't really much, just that. And then I got to meet other candidates too. We got to
Mm-hmm.
exchange contacts, we got to communicate, and thankfully, all of us we are all part of this program today. So yeah,
Okay, one question before we finalize this. Do you know anyone at any point that got to the executive chat but didn't progress to the next to get the offer letter?
I don't think so because everyone I met
Mhm.
at during my executive chat, and even the people that I had on my WhatsApp community, I think all of us actually moved on to the next stage.
Oh,
Yes. So I
so
don't.
so so
I don't know how they
so it's safe to say that you just find your way to the executive chat. Just find your way down there, and if you find your way to the
actually.
executive chat room,
Yes. So
okay,
I
okay,
think that you can get yourself to the executive chat. If you can just get yourself to pass the assessment center, that's it.
yeah,
So
that's the word. Yeah, I think it's kind of similar with Access Bank. If you can find your way to the top management level interview, just find your way there. Most likely you're going to resume. So, and then you got your offer letter. Congratulations once again. So, maybe final question, maybe. You're already in UBA, right? Already seeing how things work. So you have better perspective compared to when you were outside, when you wanted to get in. What advice would you give that person that wants to work in UBA with the benefit of your hindsight?
I would say to that person that wants to work in UBA, you have to be ready to do the work. You have to be ready to put in the
Mhm.
work because it really is not easy, and not just UBA, it's everywhere. I mean, getting the offer letter is not, let me not say is not the end of it because the training program still continues. You still have,
Definitely.
the training program continues. You have to always prove yourself. You have to be ready to work. When we started, they told us that we need to have grit. So you need to make sure that you're ready with your grit and your resilient spirit, you know, just be prepared. And it's not hard. Nothing is too hard. You just have to set your mind to it. You just have to have the right mindset
Mm-hmm.
that you're coming to work.
Yeah.
So
So yeah, to anyone watching, this is the conversation about UBA. I think it's worth it to work in a bank like that. I think, of course, anywhere you're going to work, you should know that you're ready to work. I mean, you're applying to work, so you should be ready to work, right? That's the idea behind many of these things, right? And like she said, the right mindset would genuinely help you through even some of the most chaotic moments you're going to experience or something. And like I usually say in street lingua, you just need to lock in. You need to really lock in, because I think when you get in, you're done with your training, your on-job training, your school training, whatever. It's going to be worth it at the end of the day, right? Because also on the aspect of the kind of people you meet, the way people think, the way people talk, the way people carry themselves, I think it's important for the next phase of your life. So please, I beg you, we've spoken about UBA today, but there is nothing useful about what we've spoken about if you don't make use of it, right? Kofi made use of whatever she researched about, that's why she got in. And a host of other guys like that. So guys, please, all the links that's needed, I would put them in the description below for you. Make sure you read everything. Make sure you watch the necessary videos. Make sure you text the necessary people to have an understanding of things you don't understand. Until next time, I would say lock in, and hopefully you meet Kofi one day at UB and say thank you for doing the interview with Ferron. It was your interview that helped me get in. Yeah. Thank you until next time. Bye.